Mitch in Reading with us. Hello, Mitch. How are you?
Good morning, Dalton. All good, thanks. All good.
Good to speak to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Dalton. Just with all the racism and the English football team this week, um, I'd like to put it out there that my father, who used to play for West Ham many years ago, sadly passed away now, um, and he never got any recognition at all from the FA or from England that he was the first black guy to actually represent England at any level. Um, there's other names. We all know Viv Anderson. He was the first guy to represent the country at the full senior level. But there's a guy called Benjamin Odeji, and good for him. He's been acknowledged as being the first guy to represent England. And he was 10 years after my father. There was also another guy called Walter Toll who was mentioned about 30 or 40 years
Indeed,
before my
indeed.
father.
Yeah, yeah.
But to the best of my knowledge, he never actually got on the pitch. So my old man actually was on the pitch, got the cap, got the shirt. He even actually captained the World Cup team, the Junior World Cup, and he played every game and got left out of the final due to injury. So it would have been lovely to get some recognition.
Just clarify for me, he represented England at what level?
Youth. Youth. I think he played from under 17, under 18, and even under 23. It was all different in them days, Dotton. He actually played against, it was called England versus Young England. After England won the World Cup, they went back and played England versus Young England. They played at Highbury. And my father was in his 20s at the time, and they beat the World Cup team as well. So, yeah, he was there for many years. Unfortunately, he didn't remain there. But even this week, a journalist, one of your peers, actually got in touch with us. He just randomly found us on the internet. And he's wrote a very good story in the Athletic newspaper. And he called the FA and they just would not acknowledge or even put their name to saying it was him. I've actually kept my eye on the internet a bit recently, on Twitter and so on. And to this day, I can't see anyone else who's actually provided any names or evidence of anyone who's actually was there before my father.
Do you know, I can't believe, I'm just looking at the story that was written that when you were interviewed talking about your father, and the
Yeah.
moment I saw the name of your father, I'm quite emotional actually, because you're right. He was a true pathfinder, trailblazer, and iconic player in this country. I didn't know he represented England. Tim, can you guess who Mitch's dad was?
No, I can't. It's just before that generation of Clyde Best and Johnny Ayres and the
Right team.
yeah, West Ham, yes.
West Ham.
But it's just before that, which is I started getting interested in football around 71. So I'm fascinated to hear who it is.
Do you want to tell him, Mitch?
His name was John Charles, Tim.
Oh right,
Believe
yes,
this? Can you believe this? I can't believe.
yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good that you guys remember him. You know, he's
course.
always been the forgotten man as such. But it's crazy, really, because even my own kids, they tell their school friends and stuff that their granddad played for West Ham and for England. But it was before the internet, and he wasn't the biggest name out there. And there's nothing there. I mean, it's not on the internet. It never happened. So
Yeah,
it's all a bit of a shame, really.
Part of the, I suppose, problem for your dad was that there was another John Charles.
Exactly. Yes.
who was better known than
Yes.
your dad. You know, the one
His
that
actual wife had the same name as my mum, also Carol. They were both John and Carol Charles.
exactly. So it's all. But no, I remember John Charles. There's been a few books written. I've got one of them at home. One called The Black Hammers. Do you know that book?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I can't remember who wrote it, but I've interviewed him, but I can't remember who wrote it. But that features your dad, obviously.
Yeah.
Because he was a real trailblazer.
I had no idea that he was the first to represent England.
Tim, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go on, mate.
Tim,
No, please, mate.
if anyone can prove me wrong, I'd love to hear it, because I've been looking for 48 years, and there is water, but they never put him on the pitch. Sadly for him, to the best of my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well,
yeah,
I think your father sounds a good shout for this, and I feel that he should be acknowledged for that. And it doesn't matter what level that he represented England for. Did he tell you what it was like for him in those days? Did he talk about that? I mean, I don't necessarily mean in terms of racism, just generally what it was like for him playing football in those days.
Well, one line that always sticks out in my mind, Dotton, was my cousin said to him, he said, John, he said, when he lived in Spain, West Ham were on the TV, and they was running out on the pitch, and he went, John, he said, what was that moment like? What was it like when you run out onto that field, right? He said, Eddie, I used to run out there, and I looked around and think, I effing painted that stadium. So in them days, they had to sweep up, paint, they had to do everything. But
I'm going to have to apologise, even though you did the right thing and didn't quite say the word. But there might be some people who might be offended. In which case, I apologise. No, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, we can't contact the FA at this point. We'd love to invite them onto the programme at some point and to actually do the research and confirm one way or another.
Please do.
Yeah, to confirm one way. What a great story! What a great story. Did he? Yeah, sorry. No, you go on.
I was just going to share some of his. I've got the airtime at the moment. His younger brother Clive Charles, who also represented England. I think he was the first black guy to captain Cardiff as well. He actually moved to the United States when the US the league in America started in the 70s. My uncle Clive went out there, and he actually he was the national coach. So he was the coach of the United States of America, and also he got the name out there. But I remember we went back to West Ham one day when Clive was actually the national coach. And there was no red carpet. There was nothing rolled out. He used to play for West Ham. It's a shame, really. 20 years later, 30 years later, I think it was the time, wasn't it? Things have changed.
So where did the football genes go, mate?
Yeah, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. It would have been nice.
No. Honestly, I'm genuinely touched by this call, because I always wonder what happened to John Charles, because it was a name slightly before my time, I've got to be honest, but because I've read about him subsequently, and he's sometimes, you're right, he's the forgotten, the pathfinder, as I say, the trailblazer. Forgotten.
I just remembered Addy Coker as well.
I remember Addy Coker.
Early 70s West
just
Ham.
when I was a little kid. I remember that. And he was a skinny little guy, wasn't he? But he played with Clive Best in those days, and they're the ones from my generation that knew black players.
When Clive Best, when he actually came over from Bermuda, he landed at Heathrow Airport, and he made his way to West Ham, because he had trials with West Ham. And he turned up on I think it was a Saturday or a Sunday, and there was no one at the airport to meet him, and he got to West Ham and it was closed. And Clive was a big black guy,
as it was in those days.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually a fan. A fan said to him, he said, what are you doing here? He said, well, I've come to have trials with West Ham. And he said, who are you staying with? Who are you meeting? He said, I don't know. He said, I was expecting someone to meet me. And he said, well, come round the corner. My parents used to live in Canning Town. And he said, the Charles family live round there. And that's how they met. A fan actually took Clyde Best to my dad's house, or my nan's house. And he moved in for about 7 or 8 years, I think. So, yeah, good times.
That's Uncle Clyde to you, mate.
Exactly.
Come on, have some
exactly.
respect.
Yeah.
Honestly, Mitch, it's been a pleasure, it's a real pleasure. And from now on, when anybody calls up and says, who's a footballer from back in the day that puts a smile on your face, I will remember your dad. Thank you for sharing some of that with us. And call up any time. If you want to share some more memories at any time, just call up.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tom. Have a good shift, Jeff.
Yeah, you too. Take care, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
These pioneers, they really have to be honoured.
Of course.
There's a phrase I love, if I can see far, it's because I'm a midget perched on the shoulders of a giant called history. And these are giants. That generation of the first generation of English black players, what they went through paved the way for the players of today. And it's only right and proper. We all remember Viv Anderson being the first to represent England at senior level in 1978. And that's great. And no one's ever going to take that away from him. It's a magnificent achievement. He was a great player.
Do I would have probably...
But there are others first who helped him.
Yeah.
With the paving blocks for Viv Anderson to get there.
And Clyde Best was a real hero, not necessarily because he was black, but I'm sure that was part of it, of Clyde Best and Adi Coker for West Ham. And I probably would have supported West Ham. But when I was 11 years old, I think, I read that book, Skinhead. Skinhead by Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Richard Allen,
yes.
who was actually a 60-year-old drunken Scotsman.